Continuing on page 2 for the first part of 7.1, you'll note on page 416 of the book there's a verbal description of how to factor a monomial from a polynomial, which is a fancy way of saying what we've been doing so far in the examples, taking out the greatest common factor. So you'll get through this assignment and you'll hit the practice plus section, which again is the set where they take problems and combine two or more skills. So they're going to look a little bit more complicated at first glance. But again, breathe deep, look at them in terms of what are we trying to learn in this section. And remember, in this section, what we're trying to do is learn how to do the greatest common factor. In other words, what do all the terms have in common? And I wanted to show you one that you would see because sometimes it's not obvious what that would be when the problems get super large, like this one, number 84. 8x to the fifth times the quantity x plus 2 minus 10x cubed times the quantity x plus 2 minus 2x squared times the quantity x plus 2. Sometimes reading aloud the problem will help you hear and essentially see what these pieces have in common. Greatest common factor means you're looking what the terms have in common, and terms are anything separated by a plus or minus. In fact, you might think of this as plus the negative 10x cubed and plus the negative 2x squared. And so these show the separation of terms, the adding signs or the plus signs. And so you're looking now, if you can think big picture here, we're looking to see what this first big piece has in common with this second big piece, has in common with this third big piece. And as we read it out loud, you may have heard me say each time the quantity x plus 2. So not only will they have a number in common, in this case the greatest common number that they have as a factor will be 2. Not only do they have x's in common, we're looking for the greatest x point, in this case it'll be x squared, but they also have this binomial, this two-term piece in common. It's also being multiplied by each term. This x plus 2 is also part of the GCF. So they have the number 2 in common. 2 times 4 is 8, 2 times negative 5 is negative 10, 2 times negative 1 is negative 2. X squared in common, it's part of x to the fifth, x cubed, x squared. And they also have this x plus 2 in common. This is the GCF of this. And now we look at, well, what's left over after that? So imagine undistributing this 2x squared x plus 2. Well, if you take the x plus 2 out of each term, then that's gone. So we're just really looking at dividing each term by this 2x squared. So 8 divided by 2 is 4. X to the fifth divided by x squared, top minus bottom, 5 minus 2 is 3, so that's x cubed. Negative, and again the x plus 2 divided by the x plus 2, that goes away. Negative 10 divided by 2 is a negative 5, so we've got a minus 5 there. X cubed over x squared is just x. Think of it as canceling 2 top and bottom, or use the rule, 3 minus 2 is 1, x to the first. Again, the x plus 2 divided by x plus 2 cancels. And then negative 2 divided by 2 is a negative 1, or minus 1. X squared divided by x squared is just x to the 0, or just plain 1. 2 minus 2 is 0. Anything raised to 0 is 1. So when you factor out the GCF, again, we're going to set a state right now where what's left over after the GCF we're not going to worry about. It is not factorable at this point. We'll add that into our process later. Right now we're just focused on the GCF. So our final version of the answer would be 2x squared, x plus 2, and 4x cubed minus 5x minus 1. Those are the factors of this, where this first piece right here all the way up to the x plus 2 is your GCF. So application exercises, again, this is one of those sections where I think the practice plus is really the challenge. The application exercises, they're going to give you some real life story examples where you can expect to use GCF. You can expect to use or have to find the greatest common factor, what we've been doing the whole section. So don't make these harder than they need to be. And then of course you review and preview exercises to finish it off.